How are you?
Good morning, man. I'm okay. How are you?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. Cold, but I've no complaints.
Cold. How cold?
Yeah. Well, I live in Ireland, so cold all the time.
But I live in Finland, so you're not cold.
The other extreme.
Yeah, it's like minus. I think it's -8 in here.
Is it ever warm in Finland?
Yeah, it's in the summer. It's very warm. Yeah,
Very warm. Well, at least
yeah,
you can deal with that. You'd be bad if it was Iceland and it was cold all the time.
yeah. It's fucking weird because in the winter the nighttime is like almost 18 hours, and in the summer the daylight is almost 24 hours. So it's weird.
Yeah, it's quite weird. Yeah. Right. Just highlighting over my research for the topics we need to talk about here.
Yeah, I'll retweet the space. So
Yeah, no problem at all.
yeah, I haven't been into a space like forever. I don't know why. I don't. If is it that spaces are like, are they still going on as strong or something? You
Um,
know?
I don't really know, to be honest. For me, I only really started doing them because trying to like record a podcast on any other app is it's difficult, and you have to go jump through a lot of hoops, and downloading them's difficult, and then the audio gets buffed. It seems to be in spaces, it just comes out as clean as it's going to be, and you can even clean it up a little bit too. So it's the only reason why I really use it.
Yeah, yeah, and it's easier, like you said.
Yeah.
How is the? Are they still doing the video space that you can? You know what I mean?
I'm not too sure, to be honest. There is someone that I talk to quite regularly on the app that he's massive on the spaces. He's quite a big space host, but he was saying that they are coming soon. But I think they're trying to push the live stream thing more now because you can live stream your screen now. So like you could play a game and everybody could watch you like Twitch.
Ah,
It's
okay,
quite
okay, yeah,
crazy. It's quite crazy
yeah,
what
yeah.
Twitter's becoming.
Yeah, it's coming like a all-in app for everything.
Yeah, it really is.
I think they're gonna like if you look at TikTok also, they're trying to promote longer videos. So
Yeah.
everybody's kind of like going towards everything. I think so.
Yeah, it's crazy. It just kind of looks like the market for just like a brand new app that's got something completely different to them all to just explode. Kind of just looks like that's going to be the route it's going to go down.
Yeah, yeah.
I hope
I
so.
think you can. I think you can write a book in here in the future. You know the
Oh,
articles thing.
yeah, I would say I'd say or not. I'd say it's closer than you think to that. To be fair,
Yeah, yeah. So where from Ireland are you? I lived in Ireland for a while.
did you? I'm Belfast. Do you know where that
Okay,
is? Yeah,
yeah, I know where Belfast is.
yeah. What made you move to Ireland?
Ah, well, I was 19 and I was using drugs then, so
Yeah,
I was trying to change my environment so I could stop using drugs, but that didn't kind of work out.
no,
But
it's not the right place. I don't think.
yeah, when I got to Ireland, it was so easy to find the same kind of people like like me.
Yeah.
But I remember that you guys, I didn't kind of understand your English, but when I got drunk, I understand everything you said.
Yeah, we speak better when we're drunk.
Yeah, yeah. And Finnish people are kind of the same with the drinking stuff as Irish.
Yeah, there's quite similar cultures, I suppose. It's quite hard to find someone with similar culture to an Irish person, to be fair.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right. So I think we're just about ready to start. How do you pronounce your surname? Because I've been trying it on Google Translate all evening and I cannot get it figured out.
It's Karar. It's because I'm
Karar.
half I'm half Arabic.
That
So
makes sense. It wouldn't translate properly in Finnish. See, it wouldn't in Google Translate.
yeah, my father was Egyptian, so I'm half Egyptian, half Finnish.
Right. That makes sense. It makes more sense now whenever it's explained to me because I was putting it through Google Translate and they were either just not recognising it or Finnish was pronouncing it with like these long words in the middle of it, and it just wasn't making sense to me.
Yeah, Karar means, I think in Arabic it means a warrior.
Makes sense then. Makes sense.
I'm not 100% sure about it, but I remember it is something like that.
Yeah, those Arabic names always great meanings.
Yeah.
Always. Right, so we'll get started. Tell me, who
Yeah.
is Kai Karar?
Well, Kai is Kai is a former drug addict. I used to work as a nurse. I was a former MMA fighter. Now I create content for almost every fucking platform in the world, and I have a really popular podcast in my own language, in YouTube and Spotify, and what else? I'm a writer, ghostwriter, and father, and I'm I'm also still an athlete. I don't compete because I'm 3 years old, but I still train almost every day because I love it. But that's me.
Perfect. Quite a roller coaster of a story. But
Yeah.
on the last episode with James Peters, I got a comment saying that this is going to be the most confusing podcast of 2024 because he does his topics backwards. People thought that I started with James Peters of where he is now and somehow managed to backtrack to where he started. So I'm going to just own that theme. I'm going to start here now with I stumbled across your podcast on TikTok and YouTube whenever I was researching you, and it's almost like you've got like a cult following of just Finnish people. Like I've never seen someone kind of corner a country as like quickly and as like passionately in my life. Like the comments are all just people from. Seems like these countries that are surrounding Finland just having conversations with each other about their normal day.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the trick is kind of, I know a lot about YouTube and of course I know a lot about content creation and I know a lot about those algorithms. But the main thing there is of course the content that there's my friend who's a fireman and he's also a former drug addict and I'm a former drug addict. But the thing is that we've both been clean like over 30 years when we put our clean times together and we speak about, because there's nobody else in Finland who has that kind of a background. But I don't think it's about the background or the unique story only, because it's just us telling our unique story to those people. And nobody speaks like that in Finland. There's no men in Finland that go to a podcast publicly saying things about how they feel and how their life has gone and their failures and their mistakes. There's nobody doing that. So we tapped into a market. But if you look at YouTube as a whole, uh, there's a lot of creators doing something like this, that they're all like doing their own story. Even if you looked at, you know who Sam Sulek is.
Yeah, yeah. See, he's all over my TikTok.
Yeah, yeah. But he does no editing. He just takes his phone and starts speaking. People love that shit. It's that's why people in Finland, because we're saying the things that they're thinking about out loud, and I wish I could do it in English. I think it would do very well in English too, because there's a market for that.
Yeah, I do think that something touched on there was that there's no one else doing it. It's definitely a big part of it. It's not even the fact that no one else is doing it. It's the fact that you do have your own style. Like the person that I think of first whenever I'm thinking of originality is who you mentioned, Sam Sulek, because the whole fitness industry it's all very science. It's almost like you're sitting in a classroom. But Sam Sulek literally walks on the camera, says what he ate for the day, does his
Yeah.
workout, and then talks about something completely random that happened to him 10 years ago. Like it's a content that an average person sitting in a gym could look at and relate to, rather than having to be a PT and having to do exams and science just to understand what a lot of lower fitness and like influencers are talking about. So I do definitely see that point which you're making.
Yeah, and if you look at Sam Sulek and then you look at the other guy, Mike Thurston, and Mike Thurston's every content looks very shiny, and he's living in Dubai, and he talks very well, he looks very good, but most of the people can't really relate to that. They can relate to Sam Sulek telling a story from fucking 10 years ago, and the same is with us, that we have a nice studio, and we have the nice quality in the video, and good editing and everything, but the core of the content is still like very relatable to regular people, because we're regular people. I'm not a rich guy, and my friend isn't a rich guy, but so it's very easy to uh, relate to us, because we talk about addiction, which is kind of the main problem for everybody in the world, some kind of addiction.
Yeah.
And we talk about self improvement, because and everybody likes self improvement. We talk about sobriety. We talk about being a man, being a woman, being a man with a woman with a man, because general topics that people live.
So, in terms of kind of your podcast, obviously you're kind of cornered the Finnish audience. When it comes to trying to get guests on, there's something that I've very recently found difficult. What is there any type of guest you're specifically looking for? As you said, you talk about kind of relatable, normal things that the normal person could listen to and have a conversation with you with themselves, basically about it. But is there any kind of category you're looking for when you're looking at a guest, or is there something in a guest you're 100% not looking for?
Well, we're not like we have almost two kinds of guests. We have those who have some kind of an addiction problem, and let me tell you, whole Finland is full of those people. So it's not really hard to
So is
find.
Ireland, don't worry.
Yeah, yeah, the whole world basically. And the other people we try to look at is some kind of a professional in some kind of a self improvement, addiction, healthcare. Uh, Maybe the next guest we have is a writer, like he wrote a book. So we're not like specifically looking for certain kind of people, but the way we get them is because we hype ourselves so much in Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube Shorts. So you can't miss us. Like nobody does that. People usually post on YouTube, they post on X, they post on LinkedIn, but we're posting everywhere. So people want to be a part of that. It's like a high. When we started, we didn't have we had zero views, or I didn't have like 700 Instagram followers, but we just started pumping out those reels and TikToks, and they started to go viral in first in Instagram, and now in TikTok. Every other TikTok is going viral, and of course YouTube Shorts started to go viral. So it kind of when we do one of our campaigns, people just contact us. They want to be a
Yeah.
part of this. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll move on to something now that I more than need an answer than people that will listen to this. How does an ex MMA pro transition into content creation? Because it's just like two polar opposite worlds in my mind.
Yeah, that's. Uh, well, I stopped fighting at 2019. Yeah, I had my last fight then. I was 39, and it left because if you've done any sports in a competitive way, it leaves kind of a hole in your soul, that because it's a big part of your life, and when it's gone, there's like nothing feels the same anymore, because when you fight somebody in a cage or something else in a competitive way, you engage in an activity that's so intense, like using drugs was, that that when it doesn't exist anymore, you feel empty. And I felt a lot emptiness for many years there. But I think the catalyst was I was in a relationship, and I got dumped uh, twice. I got dumped twice.
Yeah, that'll change things.
Yeah, she dumped me. She wanted me back, and she dumped me again. And I don't blame her. Like, and but after that, I went into this deep depression, And but from that depression, I found something that I always wanted to create content. Like for years, I was looking at people in YouTube and yeah, in YouTube. But
Yeah.
then things just started to click, and I found all the Dankos and everybody, and that's how I got started.
Yeah, well, to be fair, whenever it's put in black and white in front of you, it does sound like it is quite a flawless transition. It was just kind of because I was kind of thinking about it though yesterday in work. Like I was trying to figure out ways to ask questions about kind of your MMA background because it is obviously so. It's kind of like if you look at your whole life, it's kind of like this thing that just sticks out that it doesn't fit with the rest of the protocol. So it was kind of hard for me to link it all together. But I was sitting and I was watching. I was scrolling through TikTok trying to find ideas for some content for Twitter, and I seen a TikTok of Tony Bellew, the boxer, talking about how he knew it was time to step away when the fear of taking damage took over the fear of took over the will to compete because he realized that at any point in like the next 10, 15 years, he could be playing with his kids and his body could just shut down. Was that ever, when you were talking about like moving away from MMA, did that factor in at all? I don't know if I could keep taking as much damage that I used to.
No, not really that, because it was more about my age and because when you fight at 39, you're gonna fight young guys. The last guy I fought was 23-year-old Russian, and you just can't keep up with. That's the
Yes,
reality
you
of
haven't got
life.
it anymore.
Yeah, yeah, and you have to be obsessed about it, and I wasn't obsessed about it anymore. I have a daughter also, and I started thinking about like I don't want to do this like 40 years old anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's time for everything, you know.
Yeah, I suppose is what was weight cutting like at that age? Because obviously you see boxers and MMA and UFC fighters at like 23, 24 saying they really struggle with the weight cuts. So what was it like as you got older where maybe that weight was a little bit harder to get off?
You mean like stopping MMA, or what do you mean?
No, like say like as you're say like your last few fights in your career where you had to like make a weight for a fight. What was it like trying to get that weight off? Because obviously as you get older, it's harder to shift weight.
Yeah, that was hard. Like because the weight cut for an MMA fight is completely
It's
different than a
brutal,
yeah than a
brutal.
like I'm doing another weight cut now in March. I do it every March, and it takes 3 months, and it's more of a calorie. The regular way of cutting weight, or one of those
Yeah,
ways.
not as extreme.
Yeah, but when I was in my last fights, I think I got like 12 kilos in 3 weeks. So. But there's something there, like when you know you have to cut 12 kilos,
Yeah.
you go to this mentality that uh, you just have to dial in, and there's two fights. There's the weight cut, and then there's the actual fight.
Yeah, I watched Chael Sonnen. Watching he was doing a watch along of the last UFC event, and he was saying that a lot of these, like if you go into the UFC cage and you get knocked out, you still won because you've got into that cage and you've made weight. Because he related it back to Khamzat Chimaev, who's meant to fight Nate Diaz last year, and he said that he got maybe a week out of the fight. He was on pace to get to the weight and everything, but the doctor told him like your body's on the verge of dying, you need to stop, and he completely refueled. He was miles off the weight limit, and he stood with a smile and he laughed and he didn't care. And someone was like, "What's wrong? Like you've ruined the event." And he said, "I don't care. I'll love to see the next event, and that's more than happy for me."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a wild thing. Like it's the way. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I can't
Yeah,
say anything else to that.
yeah. Have you had many like really tough experiences with it, with weight cutting in general?
Yeah, when I was younger, I missed weight a couple of times, and I went too close to like getting several symptoms. Like the first symptom you have is that your hearing starts to go off, and it's a symptom of not getting enough water. And well, I don't know what's the word in English, that you lose enough water. So
Yeah,
yeah, and then you get those stomach cramps, and then it starts to get serious. And I I remember I was cutting to the 155 class, and I used to fight in that class, and later in my career in 170. But so I used to cut a lot of weight, and I was in a main event, I think, and I couldn't cut the last 3 kilos, and so I had to pay the opponent, and I actually lost the fight, so it was a complete
What's it worth it?
disaster. Yeah, yeah.
So whenever you go through all that, and things that like it sounds that the lead up to a fight is just as brutal. How does it feel then when you do lose that fight that you're working so hard for? That what's your mindset kind of at straight after, and then as the dust settles a little bit?
Yeah, because winning a fight is the best thing ever, and losing a fight is the worst thing ever. But looking back to it, it's like uh, I felt that everybody hates me and thinks that I'm a loser. But if you look at the big picture, and we know this from X and everything, that nobody's thinking about you. So it's like when you're looking somebody fighting, how long are you going to spend thinking about them losing?
Yeah,
Maybe, yeah. So when I realized that nobody's really like, only the people that are close to you really care about that stuff. So the only way when you meet other people and you talk to them, that's when it might come up. But nobody's thinking about you. So, but at the moment it was horrible. I was always like out of the grid for 2 weeks, and but then you get this drive to train more and look at your mistakes, and it turns to a
yeah.
positive thing in time.
Yeah, I do. Whenever you said that, it was quite funny. I was talking to someone in work the other day. He's a cage fighter as well, but one of his teammates lost his first fight, and he borderline went insane. But we were talking about how it's almost like people like Floyd Mayweather, who's gone on these long winning streaks without a loss. They've kind of almost programmed you to think if you lose, that's you done. You're finished. You're out the door. When
Yeah.
reality is, you'll wake up again in the morning and you can fight the next month if you want.
Yeah, yeah, and there's nothing like everybody loses. Of course, there's the outliers who might not lose even one fight, but you can think of it as this way: if you like Habib or Floyd, that you win all your fights, but after that you lose one fight, that's gonna be a lot
Could kill
harder than
you.
the guy who loses sometimes.
Yeah, that's true. So, how many times in fights have you went the distance where like the fight hasn't been stopped before the final bell?
Uh, Almost every fight.
Almost every fight. So
Yeah.
I've kind of always been curious about this. That final round of the fight, you're obviously aware that it's the final round. This is kind of give or like eat or be eaten. Where does your mind go when you may think you're maybe behind in a fight in that final round and you've got to pull something big out to get a victory?
Well, it mostly has. It's mostly about the conditioning, because if your cardio doesn't hold up, then you're gonna mentally fold, and that will affect everything. But I learned a lot about, like, in the third round, that then you just look at your opponent, and you kind of see where they're at. So if there was a lot of Russians that fought, and they were really good at the first round, but then they had a poor cardio, so they would gas out in the second or the third round, and you kind of knew you're gonna win the fight, even if they won the first round. You just have to survive the first round, but
Yeah,
it's more like it's not about the opponent that much. It's about you, like, controlling your. First, you have to have the conditioning, because if you don't, that's going to ruin the fight. But if you have the conditioning, it comes down to the mentality that you just control your actions and you control the fight, and more like move on instinct than perform some kind of a thinking pattern in your mind and then do it. You'll be done if you do that. But
yeah,
it's more, you just go out there and you kind of code, how do you say it? You watch your opponent, and if you can see if they're like gassed, you can see it. And I remember my first professional fight. Before the fight started, I could see the guy was so afraid to fight that I knew I would win this fight, and he was so he was kind of he was so scared that I was like kind of feeling pity for him because there was no fight there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you mentioned fighting Russians and things like that. Why are the best MMA and UFC fighters from Russia and Dagestan and these countries that probably don't get as much media attention as they should?
I think because they don't do anything else. I don't think they go to work like us. They just go to train and they eat there with their because they're really like this kind of a tribe mentality that when you see the Russians, they're also always with other Russians. They're not alone and they train together, they sleep together, they eat together and they might have like families and everything, but everything is like they take care of each other. But for the training, they do it all day, and we as Western people we have to go to work most of the time.
Yeah. So when you got into MMA, was there any kind of goal in specific you had going on? Was it to get to to get was it to get to an organization like the UFC, or were you purely in it for yourself?
No, I think it at the first I just wanted to like fight and I didn't have big goals there and because I started fairly late. I was a I used to box when I was a kid, so I had the boxing competition experience, but I just wanted to see how far I can go with this and then I got addicted because I'm addicted as a personality, so I got addicted to the training and the repetition and because it brought so many things into my life that hadn't that did had nothing to do with MMA. So it was weird.
Yeah, you mentioned about being addicted to it. That is something that I actually did want to think about because I was reading through articles whenever I was trying to find like, a line of question and talk to someone who was in MMA and in the fight business and stuff because I've never really encountered them. But the big thing that was all kind of coming up in all these articles, the big trend was that athletes in these combat sports, they struggle to switch off when they leave the gym and go back to reality because obviously when you're in there, it's as close to wanting to kill someone as it could come, really. So how did you find that balance of treating MMA and combat sport as a religion, as being obsessed over it, but then also having your own personal life and being a normal human at the end of the day?
Well, at the beginning, I couldn't like think about anything else but fighting and but it kind of goes down in time. But I was still addicted to it and but I was think because if you wanna this is like a good example because when I started MMA, there was a lot of people who started with me. But after 2 years, there's only three people left. So the ones who are obsessed about it will stay. Like in, you can see it. It's a universal law that it's in here. It's in everything you start. There's not going to be a lot of people after 3 years, even if people say that they're motivated and they're going to do it, and that it's all bullshit. You can see
Yeah,
who's there after 3 years, and because the only people who are going to stay there are the ones who are obsessed or they love doing it or there's something like driving them to do it every day because that's what it's gonna there's gonna be some kind of a lottery ticket 1 in a million once but you can't take that as an example because most of the people start do it they might even do it for a year but they quit and I did MMA for like 12 years. So after my career, there was two guys left who went to the professional route from the beginning, and there was
yeah,
thousands of people who started MMA. So that's or if you look at Twitter and writing stuff here, when I started in April, there's not many people left. Like even if they have like 10,000 followers, yeah, they might they're gone.
it's funny you mentioned that. I'm the next few weeks. I've kind of got things coming up, so I kind of have to plan the podcast around it. And I was looking through my Telegram app, and I was whenever I first started on social media, I was on group chats with 30, 40 people, creators, all just sharing advice and giving people tips. And I looked through the group chats today, and of a total of maybe 70 people, there is maybe 3 of them still posting and still active. And of the 3, I'm the only one that has genuinely tried to elevate what I'm doing. So it's quite funny how you've mentioned that whenever I've looked at it yesterday and realised that it is almost that a test of time of if you want to know how serious someone is about something, just give them a year and see how they react. Because if they react well to it, they'll keep going and they'll want to grow for that next year. But
Yeah.
like 95% of the people that are probably do go into a downward spiral of depression with it, like they get a year, they realize this isn't easy. Someone's not just going to come out of a golden door and hand me everything I want. And then they're, instead of looking at how they can change what they've done, obviously they've done stuff wrong, they'll just blame everything else around them.
Yeah, yeah. And you can even, the space is a good example. There's not a lot of people here, but I've been into a space where I was talking to 700 people in Twitter, and I've been into spaces that there's nobody there. But the thing is, you have to do both. And
Yeah.
you just don't have to, it doesn't matter if there's no people, you still do it. Like, that's the difference maker, that you do it even if people are not looking at you. And I know people are looking at me and many platforms, but I still like do this. Like, I don't care like if there's people or not. You have to do it even if nobody's looking. That's the difference maker.
Yeah. My first ever boss, he was a friend of our family. He had it nailed perfectly from what I've realised over the last 2 weeks or 3 weeks of doing this podcast. Said that the only magic pill for getting results or being successful or growth in anything in life is to keep doing it when no one wants to give you them. Because if I look back on last week when I done the podcast with James Peters in his field is one of the most respected people in the world. He's been interviewed by Forbes and LA Weekly, but there was 0 people watching in the space. 60 people had replayed it, and I'm pretty sure I was at least 45 of them. So, and now you look at today where I'm interviewing you, and there's been 4 people that have sitting in here watching live, and it's literally only been a week. And all I'm doing is just sitting with someone and talking to them.
Yeah, yeah, and that, I think that's the way you just do it, and because you never know which, like, it might be the next one that goes, or is your big chance or something. You never know. Like, it might be the 10,000 one, or the next one, and but I know that people that just don't quit and of course there's the element that you have to improve yourself,
Yeah,
because if you're doing the same thing and nothing's happening, there must be something wrong there. but
yeah,
I don't think, like, fundamentally you have to do the thing, but you also have to add new things to it.
yeah. So your content at the minute is quite eye catching for me because you're doing a quit nicotine challenge.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's quite out there, quite niche to be fair. I haven't seen anyone really doing it, and there's someone that's coming on in the next few months. So he's doing a trauma challenge. He's trying to escape his past traumas by almost sitting in them. So what I wanted to ask you about is nicotine. For me, is one of the most it's one of the most harmful substances in the world because it's so easy to get addicted to it because there's so many different forms of it. You look at now, like there's vapes, not just cigarettes. Like and those vapes come in every different flavor. Whatever you like, you can get it. So, what's your journey been like getting off nicotine? How have you felt about it so far?
That's a hard one, because
Tough.
yeah, that's it's like, it's hard to get off drugs, but because drugs will kill you. Like, they will kill you fast, and they will take you to a place where you don't, they will take you to a place of self-destruction, and criminals, and all that, but
Yeah.
nicotine is, it's weird. It's like, because I use snus in Finland. We
Yeah.
Yeah,
This is the
and
big thing now, isn't it?
yeah,
Yeah.
and one of the snus is called Odens, and it has 22 milligrams of nicotine per pouch. So you're getting like 400 plus milligrams of nicotine a day. And I did it for 6 years, and I was off it for a while, for a short time, but not like this. I was always on nicotine gum. But now it's different because I couldn't get sleep. I was like, I went to sleep. Then I woke up after 2 hours, all in the state of flee or fight, fight or flee, and then I would take one pouch and sleep with it, sleep with the nicotine pouch, and that my sleep was like completely destroyed. And then I just made the choice that fuck it, I'm gonna quit this, and I took two days on nicotine gum, but then my friend said that I almost relapsed because he was using snus and but then he said, why would you relapse and why are you using that gum because you're only making it worse for yourself. Then I just realized that fuck it and it's just I made this mental choice that I'm not gonna take the first dose of nicotine no matter what. Like I'll eat the regular gum so much that because you're gonna need something in your mouth that's gonna fill the void of being something in your mouth. And I was the regular gum works for me. That every even if I have a small uh, craving for the nicotine, I will take the gum, the regular gum, and start. And it started to work out. And but for the first 5 days, it was horrible. Every day I woke up, I started to uh, taste in my mouth the nicotine and after food nicotine and after everything nicotine and but after 5 days, my sleep got better. Now I'm sleeping like 8 hours again. My skin is better. My teeth are white again, and like my only like you could say this is a negative outcome. My weight has gone up a little bit, but because I train, I want my weight to go up before the
Yeah,
cut. So it's not a problem. But there's so many benefits of getting out of nicotine because even if you're not smoking your skin color is bad and your teeth and
yeah, your
your
fingers.
yeah your blood circulation is bad also you feel that I was getting a little bit of this uh, how do you say it your heart starts pumping and too fast and
Yeah.
yeah so
So
yeah
there was a theory a while ago. I read about it that if I can't remember what the exact name of it was, but it was a scientist in America had came to the realization that people who are trying to quit nicotine, if you went to the sauna for 1 hour, 3 days in a row, it would almost like detoxify those sensors or those parts of your body and your brain that have been abused over the years of taking nicotine and wearing them down to the point where I think he said originally that it would kill the cravings, but it's been tested and studied that it won't kill it, but it'll almost make you repulse the cravings. Like you'll get a craving, like I'd love snooze at this point, but then you take in 2 seconds, you'd turn around and you'd be like, why would I even take it? Like you'd almost bully yourself into the idea of out of it. So, has there been anything on this time that you're doing it that you found that really, really helps it? Maybe whenever you were starting, you didn't think it would.
well yeah I do the sauna thing also because but that's because I'm Finnish and we go to the lake after that and
It's in
I
your culture.
yeah, that's it. So it's not a kind of a big deal for us. I didn't kind of attach it to the nicotine thing, but I'm saying the gum and eating has been because the craving is there. There's this weird feeling that you need something, and nothing will satisfy that need. Even if you eat candy or steaks or how it doesn't matter how much you eat, and the craving is still there, and uh, only nicotine would help for that. But I would say I started training a lot more, and as I posted I think I posted it yesterday that I walk to the gym, I train, I walk back home, and it's like 3 miles to the gym, 3 miles back, and I'm listening to fucking Danko the whole way, and so and also I've been meditating a lot, and I just changed my habits to something else. So it helped a lot, and I'm almost waiting for the walk more than the gym. I don't know
Yeah.
why it's that. There's something really that you're walking out there, and And some days I listen to something, and some days I don't. But there's just something because everybody's going in their car, or they're trying to get fast to somewhere, and by walking, you're doing something natural, and you're helping yourself, and so the cravings kind of went away after 5 days, and I think that helped the most. Just starting new things, you know.
Yeah, that's the biggest part, though, I think, because I've quit a lot of things in my life, and I've also seen people that are just, once they get the idea of I'm going to stop this, they can just do it. It looks so flawless. And then there's other people who they almost drive themselves insane trying to quit things. But the biggest thing that I've learned from it and from talking to these people that can do it, no problem. You like the problem people have with relapsing is they get bored. They just sit and
Yeah.
they do nothing. The main thing you do, if you're doing anything really, like even whenever I'm starting doing content creation, you can't be bored. You have to distract yourself at all times. You almost have to be doing something. So, like you said, to a normal person, walking 3 miles to the gym, having a workout, and walking another 3 miles back is insanity. But to someone who needs to fill their day to not give in to their cravings, it's almost like heaven. Like it's the perspective and the two sides
Yeah.
of it. So I think that's why it may be controversial saying that people relapse because they're bored, but in reality, if you're sitting in your bedroom staring at the wall in front of you, I'm not really addicted to anything at the minute, but I'm pretty sure I could find an addiction if I done that every day.
Yeah. The problem with that is I think this is for everybody. If you stay like there's two things going on here. What you said that first thing is that boredom is a good thing, and when you try to be bored with meditation, so you kind of take control of the poor boredom. Then it's a different game. It will work for your benefit. But if you stay in bed and lie down there and sit with your thoughts, they're 90% of the time they're going to be negative. They're not
Yeah,
going. We're just like we're our state is so weird that we're always the random thoughts that we get in are negative. Like you get one positive thought and you get 10 negative ones, and that's why that's why it's so hard that you can't trust your own thinking, and you have to do something to get rid of. You have to say to yourself, "Fuck your thoughts," and start like physically do something. And I would say like when you meditate for 20 minutes, even if that's boring and you're like embracing the boredom, it's still doing something because
yeah.
you're taking in another point of view about doing it than just lying. I know what it's like being depressed and lying in your bed and thinking you're gonna life is hell, and everybody knows that's not gonna work. That's not gonna work.
Yeah, it's almost like being actively bored.
Yeah, yeah,
So it's something that I definitely do. I do it now almost on instinct, but I remember whenever I started doing it, like I hated traveling anywhere. I hated going anywhere. I hated having 20 minutes where I didn't have anything planned. But now I almost look forward to those moments because I can put on an audiobook in my earphones. I can catch up on a video, something that I wanted to learn about, or even now recently in the last week, I pretty much have no free time because anytime I'm not working or I'm not in the gym or I'm not doing something around my flat, I'm editing the podcast up to clips, and it's like I'm now almost killed my boredom because I'm doing something while I'm bored, if you know what I mean. It's something that
yeah,
probably
yeah.
don't really want to do. No one really wants to sit and chop up an hour podcast into multiple 1 minute clips. It's almost like hell, but it gives me something to do and it stops me from doing anything stupid, really, to be honest.
Yeah, and I want to go back to something you said that was really important that we don't realize. I realized it when you said it now that me walking to the gym, doing the gym and walking back, it feels normal to me. But like you said it, that it might be insanity for other people.
Yeah.
And that's something right there that's the thing you have to post about because I noticed I posted about it. I just did a fucking stupid post. Walked to the gym, no explanations, and it did like pretty well for my standards. Uh, uh, but that's not the point. The point is like uh, you do something and then you talk about it, and 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 people people, you don't know that people are going to like it or not, but it's like you said that it's so different for other people, and that's how you like catch attention, because you don't know what's going to stick, and those really simple things are really interesting to people, that you're doing something that is completely insane to them but completely sane to you. You know what I mean?
That yeah, that was actually something that I thought of recently because someone messaged me, someone who's quite a lot bigger than me, about an old post I had. And whenever I first started, I was just kind of throwing out posts that I thought about daily, and I've probably said to people in rooms, and they've laughed me out of the room. Or they're just like, "Oh, he's talking about something boring again." But they were just simple things like take a walk to the gym and put an audiobook in and do it for a week and see how you feel. And people were messaging me like, "You're like these things are the missing that tiny missing thing that people are looking for in their life that could really just kill all the negative things in their life. But it's so boring to read, they don't want to actually try it. But they don't realize if they done it for a week that they would probably forget about what their addiction or the craving actually was, because you're filling it with this thing and you'll look forward to this thing more.
Yeah, it's the idea that it's when you read it yourself. And I remember I read something like that, that go for a walk, I was thinking, what the fuck is that? That's so fucking boring. But when you actually do it, it's completely different, and I think it, for its simplicity, it helps people that because most of the people aren't going to do it, but if they're even thinking about doing it, they can see themselves walking. That's procrastination, that you think something,
Yeah.
but that's what people do. And I done it myself so many times that I'll think about something, not do it, and still feel happy about it. Kind of like I did it, but I didn't do it. But I think there's something there also, that if you do it, if you're like. Uh, if you procrastinate long enough, but you're still like reading this stuff, you'll realize the truth, that you actually have to do it to get the result. So it's
Yeah.
not all bad of procrastination, and I'm not like it's all bad, because there's some there's some benefit to it also, that if you realize this is just procrastination.
Yeah, I think that like kind of it's become quite common now that people are saying that like for kind of mental clarity or mental wind down to go for a walk, and people are they're really trashing the idea of it. But these are the same people that want to start reading books, but they don't realize if you go for this walk 20 minutes a day, 25 minutes a day, and you put the book you want to read as an audio version in your earphones, you'll probably read about 10 books a year, and you'll be healthier, you'll be fitter, you'll be more disciplined. They
Yeah.
don't realize that we're not saying just go for a walk in a graveyard at night and listen to nothing in your ears and like think about all the horrible things that happen to you. We're talking about go for a nice walk and good park or walk to somewhere you're going and just have something actively on in your earphones that you would want to do that isn't audio mainly. Like a book to put in your earphones is ideal for me anyway. I've listened to Atomic Habits. I'm listening to 50 Cent's book at the minute. Just things that I do want to learn about, but if I sat and read them, I'd probably get bored.
Yeah, yeah. I've been only listening to Dan Coe's Art of Focus, because it's really good, and uh, I just like listening to him, and I'm not like blindly following what he's teaching, and because I'm a lot older than him, but I find there's so many good things about what he says. The main idea there, that where you can control your focus, because
Yeah.
when you decide to go to Instagram and start scrolling, and that's your choice. And when you start to like see people that have things you want but you don't have, and you start feel desperate and lonely and not good enough, that's your own fault, because you started looking at those people. There's nothing. They're just creators like us putting their content out, but we should know where to put our focus. And
Yeah.
when you deliberately put your focus in, go for a walk, listen to whatever you want, you're focusing on that, and you will get the results from that. It's so fucking simple that it's hard, or
Yeah.
or the gym, or even the nicotine thing, that if you think about nicotine, you're gonna crave nicotine. But if you don't think about nicotine, you're just it's like we talk in recovery that there's this first step that like this is not a religious thing, but it says like take my will in my life and guide me in my recovery and so something like that. But the main idea is that you start doing something and you believe that your higher power or anything else will provide the rest, the spiritual part of it. And that's the same thing with this, that you go for a walk, you listen to Dan Coe, who's your spiritual guide at the moment, and you just trust that this will work better than you just focusing on things that don't work. You know what I mean? It's so simple.
Yeah, so simple when you put it in words. You mentioned recovery and things, and it segues nicely into this last part that I wanted to talk about, which is obviously is your history with drugs and being from Ireland. Obviously, as you said when we first joined the space, Ireland it's almost more accessible to drugs than most people would think, and I think the main thing for people that are addicted to drugs is how do I start? How do I get off them? It's kind of there is no instruction manual. There's no class in school that's going to teach it. So, if someone came up to you now as you're recovered and asked you how do I quit drugs, what would the main basic intro blueprint be?
Well, actually, the getting out of drugs is also kind of simple, but there's the big problem is, of course, people need to want to do it, and I've been clean out of drugs for 21, almost 22 years from drugs and alcohol. So I know a lot about drugs and alcohol and how to stay clean. I know how to be clean for 22 fucking years, and but it's the same thing for everybody, that you have to admit that you have a problem, because that's the first thing a drug addict would say, that I don't have a problem, you have a problem. That's the first thing they would say.
Yeah, blame.
Yeah. So you have to admit you have the problem, and then you have to ask for help. And when they ask for help, I will just say one thing. I would say call me every day and go to meetings. Go, like, that's why AA and NA and those, or any kind of group that's people who have recovered from that addiction, they can help you because they've done it. So you go in there, do what they say, and that's it. You'll stay clean. But as you can see, people won't do it because
Yeah,
they it takes humility to admit the defeat and then go to the meeting, start talking there, start doing the steps that they give you. They will give you a program that, like, everybody knows, there's a 12-step program, and if you do it, you will stay clean. It's so simple, but most people won't do it, and almost everybody relapses. I met like 10,000 addicts in my lifetime, and from the addicts who, this is the same thing as we talked before. Everybody gets clean, two people stay clean. But addiction is kind of difficult to study, because you might be. I know many people who have been clean for 10 years, then they relapse, and then they die, or they use for 5 years and then they come back. You can't put a statistic on that, because they might relapse 20 times and then come back. So there's no pattern that you can, like, study or anything, and so it's not about being a win or a loss. It's more about, like, if you're 10 years clean, you use 5 years, then you come back and you stay clean the rest of your life. I would say that's a win. But if you are 10 years clean, relapse and die, that's a loss. So there's no control over it, and but it's more like a day by day thing, like the nicotine thing, that you just have to work for it, and because that the sure thing is that it's not going to go away by itself. If people could heal themselves from addiction, every addict in the world would be free from addiction, but they can't do it by themselves, so they need other addicts to help them.
yeah. Something you mentioned there that I think that it's quite important that people probably breeze past is people can get clean, but very few people can stay clean. How much do you think the people you surround yourself and the environment you put yourself in relates to that.
I think it's everything. You can't stay in the, you can't stay with the drug addicts and use with you know the paraphilia and everything, and you can't stay with that stuff and it's like with everything. If you want to be a creator, you surround yourself with creators. If you want to have money, you start surrounding yourself with people who have money, and it's the same thing here. If you want to stay clean, you go to a meeting where there's addicts and start surrounding yourself with addicts, and like with everything, it's so simple. It's hard.
Yeah, it's hard to explain, but it's so simple to follow.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the hard thing about it because people also want a step by step plan so they don't have to think for themselves.
Yeah,
But that's only the start, the 50% of it. That for recovery or anything else, that we give them a step by step plan, but to complete the step by step plan, they have to start thinking about themselves and their story and their lives and how they can like creatively do this. So there has to be some kind of a self reflection, and not everything can be outsourced to somebody telling you what to do all the time.
yeah. The simple but hard thing is what I relate to a lot because whenever I was battling mental health, it definitely helped me. Is people are probably going to hear that quote and think that we're making it out as it was so easy and things like that, but it's not. The format is simple. The thing to do is hard, but it's not like there's hidden messages in the outline of how to beat anything. It's very simple. You like if we sat someone down that's an addict, they could explain to us exactly why they're an addict. They could explain what they do. Same with someone who's depressed, they could explain exactly what is making them depressed. The difference is between someone who does beat it fully and someone who just beats it for some time is it's some as they see how simple it is, they just remove themselves from these situations. But that doesn't mean that it's easy to do. To pull yourself out of those situations is one of the most difficult things in the world. But you know it's in black and white. That's how you beat anything.
Yeah, yeah. The problem is our own mind because that's the worst enemy. It's so there's like two voices in my head that's telling me, the negative voice is telling me you're not good and you'll always be an addict, and it's a combination of voices that I heard before, my mother, my father, the bullies I met, and it's all formed by that. And when it consumes all your thinking, there's not much you can do about it until you hit rock bottom, and there's going to be some kind of an incident that will take you out of uh, uh, the reality you live in. And for me, it was when I lost everything. I didn't have I was homeless. I had no money. I had nothing, and that's it. And then I saw myself in the mirror. I was a skeleton, and then I saw the truth that this is what I am, but I don't have to be this anymore.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it is. That's it, perfectly nailed. So you mentioned that you were homeless. So how did you go from what? Well, first we need to find the timeline. How long after or before was MMA from when you were homeless?
There's a 9 year time span because I was clean many years when I started MMA.
Right. So you were homeless before MMA or after?
Before, like when I was uh, I was very young. I was 21 or 20, 21 when I yeah 20 and 21. I didn't have any home, and I lived with my friends. It's a drug, you know.
Yeah, couch
Yeah,
surfing.
yeah, and we use drugs all day. So
So that's quite an extreme change as being homeless and taking drugs to putting your body through extreme measures and stand in the ring with someone who pretty much wants to kill you. How did you transition into that? Because it seems two different worlds completely.
well, the boxing thing played a part of it, and because I before I was a drug addict, I was really because I'm old. I watched a lot of Mike Tyson when he was live, like, and I was really addicted to sports and boxing and everything. And so when I got clean, I kind of took the path I think I should have taken if I hadn't used drugs and I got back to bodybuilding. And then I noticed that I don't want to do bodybuilding. I want to fight. And then I just went to the gym. I met this guy in the gym, and he said that he started MMA, and I told him I want to try it also, and he invited me there, and I went to the basic class, and I just couldn't stop. I noticed that I'm a lot better than everybody else because of my boxing background, and then I then I noticed that you have to for MMA you have to learn, of course, you have to learn Thai boxing, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, boxing, Greco-Roman.
Yeah, it's everything.
Yeah, yeah, and that was like the most fascinating thing that I'm a good boxer, but this doesn't help me with the guy who knows how to take me down, how to solve this problem, and that was so all I did. I was thinking about that I went to training. I got my ass kicked, went home, looked videos all night and studied. Then I got back to training, got my ass kicked until I didn't get my ass kicked anymore. And it took maybe a year. And then I noticed that I'm better than everybody else. And then I started looking for people who are better than me. And I repeated the cycle all over again.
Yeah, so the whole fighting and the fascination with it, that kind of distracted you from whatever was dragging you down to make you homeless. Then would you say?
Yeah, but as I said, because when I was homeless, I got clean when I was 21, and then there's no 8 years between, and then I started MMA.
Yeah, so it was quite a journey. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, I do
yeah,
see what you mean. Yeah, I think that's more or less all topics covered that I had wrote down in research. But there was something that you did mention that's been playing in my mind for now maybe about 10, 15 minutes. Was whenever I asked you about the blueprint for quitting drugs or quitting addiction, you said that you mentioned that the person should take your number and ring you anytime. And it brings me back to a TV show I watched maybe about a year ago. It's a basketball TV show in America called Swagger. And they have this
yeah,
constant quote of be a 24-hour person. And they never really explained it much on the show. But I then watched a TikTok of someone that I do follow quite closely, the creator, and he mentioned that there's two different kind of stages of friendship. There's the friendship of I have nothing to do. I'm going to ring someone and find something to do. And then there's a friendship of I'm in the pits of hell at 2 a.m. I can ring him, and while I'm on the phone, he's going to be buttoning his belt, getting his car keys, and he's going to be coming to my house. That's the difference between getting people that will actually lift you up and help you and people that will drag you down. And I suppose that in a whole is the changing of environment.
yeah, yeah, and yeah, and I have those people like if I need to call somebody, I have those people, and but that's I think the whole thing we talked about here comes down to the commitment that anything you do, you have to do it every day, and no matter what. If it's the recovery thing that you phone me every day, that's a commitment, and you have to do it like every day, or content creation, or quitting nicotine, or anything you start, you just don't stop. Like even if everybody else around you, nobody's listening to you, everybody else quits, you don't quit. And that's been the thing with my recovery, that almost all of my friends have relapsed or died or went back to using. Some of them came back, but the thing I told myself, I'm not going, even if my best fucking friend starts using, I'm not going to use, because I'm not. It's my life, and you have to be selfish about that. And that's the mentality that you're gonna spread to everywhere. That if you start doing something for yourself, you're gonna do it every day, and don't stop, even if everybody around you is stopping or
Yeah,
telling
that
you something else.
that does really hit home because when I think about whenever I was going through obviously the darkest parts of my life, the people that around that were doing the things that were making me beat myself up about that I was doing. And I look back now, a lot. I don't even know how many years on now. It's been almost just a blur. And I look back now, and they're doing the same things, if not worse. It's kind of like, I know it is hard to pull yourself out of those situations or those environments, or you have memories and you have ties, you have lifelong ties to these people, but you almost have to kind of have that uncomfortable conversation with yourself of what, how would you react if your kids came to you and explained that situation to you, and they said, I stayed with that bad group of people and they had all these things wrong with them. It's a hard thing to do, to be fair. That is probably the hardest point, is pulling yourself out of that situation and detaching yourself. But now I have detached myself, and I look back, like, like those situations haven't changed. They're still the exact same. It's just I'm not in them anymore.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah. That's you just have to like stay on your mission. This is so cliche about talking this stuff, but most of it's just true that the repetition and discipline and staying on your mission and of course there's going to be nuances and you have to think deeply about what do you want and everything, but there's some principles that work every time, and you can't go around them and look for, because most of the people are looking for shortcuts and the next trick, or and they're gonna fail every time because some trick might work for them for a while, but if you don't like have your own tricks, own systems, it's not gonna work.
Yeah, that's it. Absolutely nailed, to be honest. I don't think there's any way of defining it better than that.
Yeah,
Uh, Kai, it's been an absolute pleasure. I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and I think that there's a lot that we talked about and a lot that we shared that people could really, really relate to and could hit home with if they take it seriously, obviously. But yeah, I think a few weeks' time, maybe whenever the podcast picks up a little bit and had a different variety of guests, definitely would like to come on, bring you on again and get maybe into the deeper things and into the more of the backstory. But yeah,
yeah, yeah. Of course, I'm always down, and I really like talking with you about this stuff. I don't like. No, this is not like every time it works with everybody, but I believe we kind of got very deep in with this stuff, and yeah, yeah. Let's
yeah,
do it
so
again.
perfect. Can't wait to do it again, get into the better, like the more grittier parts. But as I said, absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on. You didn't have to take time out of your day to do it, but thank you so much for doing it.
Yeah, my pleasure, man.
No problem at all, Kai. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Bye.
thank you.